Hi, I'm Dr. Teresa Smith, the author of Stronger, How Overcoming Life's Adversities Can Push You into Your Purpose. Today, I want to welcome you to my new show, Transform with TAS. Now, Transform with TAS is a little different. Transform with TAS allows me to marry something that I really love, which is cooking, with helping others. Now, some of you may not realize it, but I haven't always been this size. Just a few years ago, I was a lot bigger, but then I was a lot smaller. After my doctor decided that gastric sleeve surgery was needed to balance out treatment for a chronic illness, then we realized that, this is good. I lost some weight. But what my doctor didn't realize was that I actually love to cook. I just love to cook. And I love good food. I used to call it that good, bad food. It's good food, but it's bad for you. So here it is now. I've had gastric sleeve surgery, and so I only can eat small portions. But I've been cooking since I was 9 years old. At the age of 9, my mother taught me how to make cornbread from scratch. And I went from making cornbread from scratch. Now, for those that don't understand scratch, that means you don't use Jiffy. But I like Jiffy now, though. But you didn't use Jiffy. And so everything had to be assembled. Well, I moved from making cornbread from scratch to making cakes from scratch. And so I've always baked, I've always cooked, but now it's like I eat small portions because of the gastric sleeve surgery. So it's like my flavor has to be there. Because if the flavor is not there, you know what? Nobody wants to eat it. So whether you have had gastric sleeve surgery or some other metabolic surgery, or you're just wanting to have some good food, good bad food that's good for you, it's healthier, this is the show for you. I am going to be transforming recipes, those good recipes that we just love, as well as talking to newsmakers, those individuals who have been able to transform their then to their nows. So this is a show that's going to transform your physical body as well as transform your soul. So I got to tell you this, I got to put this disclaimer out there. I cook all the time. And whenever I cook, I always reach out to mama. Now, my mama's a hoot. Everybody got a hoot for a mama, I'm sure. But my mama's really a hoot. She doesn't really do social media, so I will call her and I will ask her questions just like I would normally do. And you just never know what's going to come out of mama's mouth. But that's why we love our mothers. And so I'm just letting you know, mama's going to think this is her show, and it is her show. Because if it wasn't for my mother, I would not be the cook that I am now. So I hope that you will enjoy our show, and give me just a second. I'll be back in the kitchen and we'll get cooking. I'm back, and as you can see, I've got my hat on. My mother told me since I was a little girl, you don't cook unless you have a hat on. Well, I shouldn't say hat, it was a bonnet. And so I learned that you have to cover your hair. And so I've got something on my hair. So you're gonna see me changing hats. It might be this one a lot, depending upon what I'm wearing, but I've always gotta have something on my hair. Now today, we're going to have meatloaf. I remember having meatloaf as a little girl, and I know there are all sorts of ways to kickstart a meatloaf. You can buy things in the can, but meatloaf typically uses ground beef. Well, we're not using ground beef. We're going to use ground turkey. Now, ground turkey, if you are used to having turkey, which I've eaten a lot of ground turkey and turkey in general because I love turkey, turkey really doesn't have a lot of flavor. And so what I want to do today is to begin to kick it up a notch is I'm going to add sausage. So here what you have is 1 pound of ground turkey and a pound of sausage. Now I must say, I compromise. This is pork sausage. Now I might want to say that differently for the people in the South. This is pork sausage. And so I figured I could marry the pork sausage with the ground turkey because ground turkey really needs a lot of flavor. So I've got a pound of sausage and I got a pound of ground turkey. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly incorporate items into this meat mixture. The first thing that I'm going to add is I sauteed in chicken broth, the pepper trio, which is red peppers, green peppers, and orange peppers. And then I also sauteed a small onion. And so I'm just going to pour this in. And I'm going to use my trusty spatula just to get all the little morsels out because we're going to need this because as I've stated, when it comes to ground turkey, you need everything that you can. Then I am going to add, as I just kind of mix this around a little bit, just mix it around a little bit. Now I'm going to add my spices. Now what you see me doing before I add the spices, and I've got lots of little things over here because I wanted to make sure that you can see that you can use whatever you have in your kitchen. I'm the type of person, I love kitchen gadgets and I've owned a lot of kitchen gadgets and some of them I don't have anymore. But I'm now learning whatever I have, I'm going to make that work. So you saw me mixing in the peppers, onions with the meat mixture. So now I'm going to pick up a bigger spoon. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sprinkle these herbs. I've got oregano, I've got parsley, I've got basil, a half a teaspoon of each one. I think I've got some Italian seasoning. I just added that too, even though most of this is a part of the Italian season trio. So we're going to mix this together. Now, you know, when I was a little girl, you're going to see me do this, Mama would use her hands to mix up meatloaf. And we're going to have to do that too. And I've written this my recipe down because I don't want to mislead you. So I have added, because I've added a whole lot of stuff here, I've added basil, parsley, oregano, garlic, onions, black pepper. Okay, so it's a lot going on here. Now I'm going to add a cup of tomato sauce. Now I will tell you this particular tomato sauce has basil and oregano in it. So I'm really trying to add the flavor, or I sort of call it layering the flavor on. And the reason being is I'm dealing with turkey. And I've got to make sure my turkey has some flavor. Okay. Now I've also left a little bit of the marinara sauce or the tomato sauce over here to the side. We're going to use that later. Okay. Going to use it later. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add, I think this is a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. Because we've got to get this flavor. I wish you guys could really smell this. Believe it or not, I really do wish you could smell it. It's smelling pretty good. Now, let me tell you what I did here. This is a 1/4 cup of Italian breadcrumbs. And I had already put, I think it was about a 1/4 cup of milk in here. And I wanted it to start to sort of blend itself in. Well, you know, I'm my own sous chef. So it's kind of absorbed itself. So what I did was I brought out just a little more milk before we got started so that it would begin to break this up. Okay. So that's the reason I have that little extra milk there, because I've got to break up my breadcrumbs. But I did this originally because I wanted to make sure that the breadcrumbs were moist. So I'm having to re-moisten them. Now, if this was not good food, that's bad food, bad good food, what I would do is you could have added a little butter, but this is going to be healthy. So I'm not adding any butter. So we're getting that here because that would be adding on additional oil. But because I chose to use the ground turkey with the sausage, I'm thinking this pork sausage or pork sausage, I think that it should give me enough oil. I'm thinking it will. We'll see, because you just never know. Now what we've got to do is we've got to add in, most people would do an egg, and there's nothing wrong with doing eggs. But what I've done is I've poured up 3 egg whites. So basically, you can either buy the egg whites or you can just do as I normally do, crack an egg, and I just separate the yolk from the egg. Now I'll tell you, years ago, my mother used to have this little yellow yolk separator, and I've probably had it for a long time, but you know, then I just started taking the egg, cracking it, and just going like this, you know, just shifting that yolk back and forth, and I was separating the yolk from the egg white. So now that's just the way I do it. It's sort of like a little fun to me. And, you know, someone said to me, "You really do enjoy cooking, don't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I'm really in my element." Now, I've got one more thing to do, but I'm not quite sure yet of how I'm going to do it. So let me see if I can get Mama on the phone. Now, I've got my phone wrapped up because you know I'm cooking. And see if I can get Mama on the phone, because I do have a question. And she is the only person, you know, I may not even get her on the phone. She's the person that can answer this question for me.
Mama.
Hey, Mom, how you doing?
I'm good, okay?
Good. I'm going to put you on speakerphone, even though I'm mic'd up so everybody can hear you. Mom, I tell you, I'm here working on some, what am I working on, Mama? I'm making turkey meatloaf. So I've got all this together, and then it hit me, you didn't put any salt. But now I'm trying to determine how much salt. Now I'm going to also add a cup of Italian blend cheese. And then I'm going to add 1/4 of a cup of feta cheese. Now I know you know what I mean when I say feta cheese?
Yeah,
So, you know, I'm going to add feta, and then I'm going to mix all that together, but I'm not sure how much salt I need. So is it a half a teaspoon or is it a teaspoon? I'm just not sure. And you know, if it's too salty, you can't mess, well, you know, I'll have to reinvent it. But I'd rather go under, I'm almost thinking go a half a teaspoon, but I'm just not sure. What do you think?
Well, I'd go a half a teaspoon because like you said, if you go a teaspoon and it's too salty, you can't take it out. You can always reinvent it, like you said. Let's go with a half a teaspoon.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna do a half a teaspoon, and then I'm gonna put my my cheese blend in, and then I'm gonna. I've been mixing it up with a spoon, but you know I got to do one quick mix with my hand, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it in my little miniature loaf pans. Then I'm gonna pop it in the oven, and then I'm gonna put a little marinara sauce, and then I'm gonna bring it back out. And then I'll put cheese on top. So it's got a lot of cheese in it. So I'm thinking that will add to the saltiness also. And so I think you're right. We just need to go a half a teaspoon.
Okay then. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Keep cooking.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay. You see what I tell you? She's a hoot. You said, see, now the other people, I guess she said, you not Bobby Flay and all the other people and Guy Fieri. So don't you be using your hands. You see what I'm saying? I told you Mama's a hoot. Now she done got in here and she done started directing. You see, if I hadn't have said anything, I'd have just, I don't know, I think I might need a little bit more than a half a teaspoon. I tell you, I think I'm gonna need a little bit more than a half a teaspoon. It's just hard to tell. I think I'm gonna need a little more than a half a teaspoon. So what I'm gonna do is now, don't you try this at home. Like I tell a friend of mine, I can taste food in my head. And it's so, oh, but this is smelling good though. I'm gonna do this. The camera's gonna catch it. I did a half a teaspoon and then a half a teaspoon. You know how it is when you're a cook. You just kind of have to feel your way through it. I think that's what I'm going to do. Because I just didn't feel that half a teaspoon, it just didn't feel right to me. I just don't know how to explain it. It's a feeling that I get. As C.C. Bloom said, that's Bette Midler from when she was in Beaches. I feel things. So I kind of feel it a little bit. Now we're just going to move this Italian blend around here a little bit. We're going to get this stirred up. Well, by the time I stir it like this, but I guess I may not even need to, I don't even think I'm gonna need any gloves. I heard Mama, but the way this is feeling to me as I'm stirring it, I don't think, oh, it smells so good too. Oh, this smells good. I wish you guys could smell it through the the lens of the camera because this is smelling good. I can't wait to taste this. Oh, it's smelling good. Those peppers and the onions and those spices. This should be really good. Really, really good. You know, I have been eating ground turkey for a long time. And there are times that I have cooked things for my family and sent it home to them. And when I first started using it, I didn't tell them it was ground turkey. Because if I told them it was ground turkey, you know what they were going to tell me? I don't eat that. So I didn't tell them. And then I always ask them after I've done something, I'm like, what do you think that was? And they'll be like, what do you mean what do I think it was? I'm like, what do you think that was? And then they're like, wasn't it ground beef? I'm like, nah, because you know I don't eat ground beef. I actually haven't had ground beef since before 9/11. I was on another diet, but really I had low blood sugar. And so I started eating 5 little meals a day. And I was not eating any processed food. And so, of course, I stopped eating ground beef. And so I haven't had a hamburger since before 9/11. And so I was really eating a lot of ground turkey and turkey itself, turkey breast that wasn't ground. And so I had to figure out how to make it taste good. And so they were my guinea pigs. They didn't realize it, but they were my guinea pigs. And so I learned how to make ground turkey taste really good. Now, this smells good. I think it's mixed pretty good too. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take my loaf pans, here are my loaf pans, and I am going to spoon up the meatloaf mixture. This is ground turkey, and it is got some sausage. Now, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it with this spatula because this is nice and soft, but we're gonna see. Am I gonna be able to do it with this spatula? Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start at the center. Ooh, I may have more left over. And I'm starting at the center because that way I can work my way out as I put my meat mixture in here. So now what you've seen me do is we have placed the sausage, ground turkey, meatloaf in my pans. What I'm going to do now is, isn't it good that I did not use this teaspoon? Because I don't have my spoon over here. So what I'm going to do is I saved back some marinara sauce and I added, I know you guys are gonna say it's overkill, but I added a little more oregano and basil. Then I added that Southern favorite, a pinch of artificial sweetener, not sugar, because I don't eat sugar. I haven't had sugar since before 9/11, so it has nothing to do with my sleeve surgery, but I haven't had sugar since 9/11. So I added my artificial sweetener, but I did put 1 pack of it. And 1 pack is supposed to be the equivalent of 2 teaspoons. And oh, I felt like a little cinnamon. So I did a dash of cinnamon, literally a dash. You know how you take the container and do? That's what I did. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to spread some of this over each one of my little loaves, okay? And we're going to cook this for 50 minutes in an oven that's already preheating to 400. And then we're gonna pull it out. And then I'm gonna add a little more cheese. So I'm gonna put this in the oven. Ooh, it's heavy. This is about almost 2 pounds of meat. I'm gonna put this in the oven, for 50 minutes, and then we'll pull it out, and then we'll put a little cheese on it. So here we go. Let's see what we have in just a little bit. We've got our miniature meatloaves in the oven at 400 degrees, and so we're gonna leave them in there for 50 minutes. And then we'll check to see how they're coming. I'll check back with you soon. Hi, this is Dr. TAS, and I am here today with one of my great friends, Kendrick Thomas. I call him KT, and I'm gonna just be honest. Sometimes I butcher his name, and he says, "That's okay, Taz. I'm gonna let you go with it." And I appreciate that because he knows that my heart is really there. We had an opportunity to meet really by happenstance, but if you've been following me, I don't think anything just happens. We were connected through a mutual friend, and I didn't know the mutual friend. He reached out to me on social media, and then he connected the three of us. And I must tell you, when he connected us, I felt like I had met my brother because I don't have any brothers. And we were able to connect across the country because he's in Texas and I'm in North Carolina. But as I got to work with KT, I realized that he had a story that I felt my viewers needed to hear. Now, my show is about transformation, going from your thens into your now. And when I heard his story of all the things that he overcame to become a school administrator, he's a motivational speaker, he's a youth advocate, I thought, I want someone to see what this Black man is doing. So Kendrick is joining me today from Houston, Texas. So Kendrick, I'm going to throw you the mic, as we say sometimes, and I want you to talk a little bit about what you do now, and then I'm going to back it up and we're going to talk about your backstory.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. As Dr. Todd stated, Kendrick Thomas here in Houston, Texas, currently an assistant principal for Hicks Elementary in Alief ISD. Awesome child advocate, just love giving back to my community. Of course, we do the podcast on KTTeeV.com that's going out, and it all involves education, our community, and simply building up entrepreneurs as they share their resources with our community. And so that's where my focus is, just giving back.
Well, it's not just giving back. You've been giving back since you were a very young child.
Yeah.
Now, your home is Shreveport, Louisiana, I believe.
Yes.
And I think when I was doing my research, I found out that you were born to your mom, who was 15 at the time.
Yes.
And, you're the oldest. I think it's maybe 3 kids.
Yeah.
And there was something that happened during your childhood that may have been one of the pivotal moments that helped to propel you to work really right now with young children, and you're able to help mold them. Would you like to share with us what happened at that early age?
Yes. One of the biggest things that really kind of formed my mentality in life was my mom went to prison, right? And so armed robbery, and I want to say it was 1988, so I was 8. She was very young, because very young, like 20 something. And so then that put us in a place where we were about to go to foster care. My grandmother stepped in, and then it was on me though, because grandma, but I, as the oldest, I have to step in and take care of the kids. My little brother, my little sister, I remember combing my sister's hair and trying to get us together before school. But that really told me, like, okay, you got to stand up and you got to. So then being raised by your grandparents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that piece, it just molds you to see the positive. And we were the candy store people in the community, right? So everybody came to us and we were always just doing this. And so that was some of the ways. I remember in 3rd grade, I wrote a poem. After my mom went to jail, I wrote a poem called Life Is. And I was 8, Dr. Taz, and talking about life, this got published statewide. They picked up the poem and it was inside of a book, but that's really how deep it was at that early age.
Hmm. Now, I've heard so much. I'm trying to figure out which direction do I want to jump in first. Let's back up a little bit. You said that your mom went to prison for armed robbery.
Yeah.
I know that she was 15 when she had you.
Mm-hmm.
What was the catalyst for her to commit the crime? Do you know?
Dr. Taz, she stole some money and washing powder. Yes.
Money and washing powder.
Yeah, we were living, we didn't have any lights at that time. Matter of fact, when it all happened, me, my brother and sister were asleep in the car in the driveway. And then so now after she did this, she comes back home. And it's a standoff really. So we're in the middle, police on this side screaming for her to come out. And that's how my grandma found out, because her neighbor in her neighborhood always kept the police scanner on. And so he heard it, came next door and said, I think something's going on. they were able to rescue us out. But yeah, so it was just, I mean, you know, drugs, don't get me wrong, you know, they played a part, but after that, I think it was just, you know, you think about what she stole and where she was at, really, you know. And so that
You
was it.
know, when you say a standoff, it gave me chills. I can remember being 9, and I would say the year. I'm not going to say the year like you do, but I'm not going to say that. But I can remember being 9, I think I was 10, and in January of that year, seeing a police standoff, seeing the police, the sheriff around this gentleman, and my mother running through the house and seeing this, and the feeling of helplessness. Because when you said that to me, it took me back to that moment, and I got chills. And thinking about a young child witnessing that and not knowing what's happening, you know, why is it that the police are there? Why are they trying to take your mom from you? And then being the male, being that male. And we, as a Black race, and I'm not going to speak for all Black people, but from my upbringing, there's so much responsibility that the male has in the family. And you didn't mention your dad. I know your mom was 15, and then seeing this happen, as you talked about, combing your sister's hair, all of that responsibility fell on you almost immediately.
Yes.
But, you know, the one thing, given the context of the world that we live in right now, the other thing I do want to state is I'm thankful that, and I think you'll get it, KT, others may not. I'm thankful that your mom was able to go to prison, because it could have been a different outcome that morning or that afternoon or that day.
Yes.
It could have been a different outcome, and you guys could have lost your mom.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always try to look for the silver lining in everything, because I believe that we're constantly growing, but sometimes it takes years for us to see it. So we understand there was some drugs, but she stole some money and washing powders. So what I'm hearing, and you correct me, you were raised by 3 strong Black women. Because in doing my research, I know that your grandmother stepped in once your mom went to prison. So I'm still going to keep your mom as one of those strong Black women.
Oh, yes.
Because she was trying to take care of her kids. Maybe she wasn't going about it the right way.
Yeah.
But she was still doing what she knew to do, because she was a mom at 15.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I think you said did you say you were 8 when she, no, you were 5 when she was incarcerated?
No, I was 8. Yeah, because
You were
that was
8
1988.
So that means, you know, she's still, 23?
Yeah.
So she's still a very young person, and, you know, have been trying to find her way during that time period. But you had your mom, then your grandmother stepped in, and so the kids did not have to go into the foster system, which is a blessing.
Yes.
And then I think in doing my research, you indicated you had an opportunity to also be raised by your great grandmother. So you had 3 generations of strong Black women influencing you.
Yeah.
Now, was your grandfather involved in your upbringing? So I guess what I'm trying to do is connect some dots here. We've got strong Black women.
Yeah.
We've got a strong Black man. You had already began to understand at a young age the responsibility of a Black male. And you stepped in to help alleviate some of the additional stress that would have been on your grandparents.
Yes.
Now, thinking about that time, what's the one lesson, or maybe 2, that you may have learned from your grandfather that has endeared with you and kind of helped steer you into the man that you have become?
Yeah. Oh, man. With Granddad, I will just start by saying, Granddad, I never met my dad. So Granddad was very instrumental into that piece Even when I stay out where my mom went to jail from, no matter where I stayed, he would come pick me up every Friday, bring me over, and then make sure I went to church on Sunday, and then drop me back off. So that was what Granddad would do. I think of a lot of times whenever he'd have to leave, he'd always say, "Okay, you're in charge. Take care of Grandmama." So just things like that. Even remember just saying we had the candy store, so I was the one getting up when customers came and going, waiting on people, so doing that in the community. And so one thing that he taught me was just simply just about being the man, like being a man, and just understanding that protector part, that provider part. Yeah, that was it, because he made it happen. Right. You think about when he passed and we would clean up, we would just find random money just all over the place. But it was because he knew, like, I got to take care of things. And so that's what he would always take me to the bank with him when they go cash in. So just a lot of those lessons of being a man.
Kendrick, you had such a wonderful, rich upbringing. You talk about finding the money. I can remember my mom talking about that with older people in a certain time period. They didn't always trust the banks, and so they would have money hidden throughout the house. And then it was when they would pass that you would find it, but you never knew just how much money they had. But they were thinking ahead. They were just planning for the future in a different way. So when you talk about, the protective piece, obviously that's there, and that has stayed with you. I see that in the work that you do in the schools with our kids. Also, being a man, you're doing that when you work with the boys club and helping them to grow into manhood. But also, I know you're about building and that sense of community. And when you had said the candy store in the community, I was thinking you meant that people came to you guys' house and they bought candy. And I know years ago they used to talk about that penny candy. I may be going to that. Okay, I'm really aging myself, that penny candy.
Yeah, that's it.
And so, but when I hear you say that, it's like, oh, that sense of community, the sense of responsibility that each of us has as it relates to the community, our actual physical community, and then the community as a larger agent. You got that understanding really from your grandparents, but being quote unquote active in the candy store.
Yeah, Dr. Thomas, when I was in 5th grade, and I think about this as a school administrator, this lady would have been fired probably on the spot. My 5th grade teacher knew that we had the candy store, but we'd also sold school supplies and all that. So I would take up money in my class, walk away out of elementary school, home, to go buy all the kids stuff, and then come back to school. So my grandma would be like, well, what are you doing here? You wasn't, but that was it though, that responsibility. You just think about that trust that she just in place in a 10-year-old to walk and come back with people money.
And but that entrepreneurship though too.
Yeah.
It was being developed during that time period. And you're right, if that was happening now, she would be fired. I'm telling you, there's no way you're going to let a kid leave campus and then come back running quote unquote errands for the classroom. Yeah. But it's amazing how times have changed. But when I talk to folks and I see how those tenets were embedded in their DNA at such an early age, and then how it blossoms. So let's just fast forward now. Your mom comes home, you're doing good, your siblings are doing well. What propelled you? Because I know that, it's not like there wasn't some gang violence and, things of that nature, drugs, in the community. What was it that helped you to stay focused on a different future? I know your grandfather was instrumental, but what helped you to stay focused?
I think later in life, and I tell this story to my elementary kids when we talk about college all the time. Dr. Taz, I didn't know about college until almost March of my 12th grade year. Like that was my first time ever hearing about college. And so what happened was I asked a friend of mine, really my god brother, I said, man, what you doing after you graduate? He said, man, I'm going to college. I said, man, what is college? And so then we started talking about it. And before I knew it, I told Mama that's what I want to do too. And so I think that was the pivotal point right there, because when I did that, I was able to get enrolled in August. Of course, I'm behind on everything, so it was some close cut times in there. I may have to go home, but God worked it out, and I was able to meet people there who were outside of home, outside of that neighborhood, outside of gangs and violence. And really, that was the pivotal point. That was it.
I'm trying not to cry.
Yes.
Because when you say to me, you didn't even know what college was until like March, it's your spring year. That is, people already know where they're going at that point. You think about it, the path, you've taken the SAT several times, the ACT, you have some options by the time spring comes of your senior year. And to hear you say that you didn't even know what college was.
Yeah.
But you spoke to your god brother, I think you said,
yes.
And he's like, I'm going to go to college. And you're like, what is that? And he explained it to you.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I want to do that too.
Yeah. And
you're able to share that with your mom. And she may not have fully understood what it meant.
Yeah.
But, and I'm putting words in your mouth. You didn't say this, and I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. But she knew it was important.
Yeah.
She knew it was important. And you guys were able to work it out. And as I tell people all the time, nothing just happens. Then God was able to put the right people in your path.
Yeah.
And then we look back on where you were and where you are now. And you are a success. Yeah. And you're the type of person that can give hope to other people who may not even know what college is. Because there are people, even in this day and time, they don't know what college is. They don't know what opportunities education will open up for them. So to hear you say that, because I didn't know this, it just resonates with me, just how God was orchestrating your future. And I'm an educator, and I'm going to try to say this on the PC side.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to be at the high school level. And I believe you have to be called to middle school level, because middle school is a totally different animal. I'm a former school counselor, for those that don't know. So those middle school counselors, give them their props, because our kids are they're just all over the place. They don't know who they are, and their hormones are changing, and their bodies are changing, their minds are changing. They're just everywhere. But elementary school, it's not always a lot of minority males, Black males, who work in elementary.
Yeah.
So I don't know what your aspirations were, KT, but when I hear your story, I think about all the nugget, all the guidance, all the wisdom, the role model that you are for all of those kids, regardless of their race or their ethnicity. Because they don't know it, but you have lived some of the things that some of them may be living, those hardships, and you were able to overcome them. And that is what, when I look at your resume, when I look at your speaking, when I look at the things that we've done together, this helps me to understand why you're so laser focused on schools and the community. Because it was the bridge.
Yeah, that's all I had.
It was the bridge. If you could tell that 8-year-old KT, a little Kendrick, if you could give him a message, what would that message be?
That's powerful. Oof. All right, now you about to make me tear up. I don't know. Hold on.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hold on. Okay.
Take your time.
I will say, don't be afraid. Don't be. It was hard, because I didn't understand what was going on, right? I just knew we had to stay with grandma.
Yeah.
And so, I remember transferring to a new school. Like each level of school, I went to 2 schools because we always moved, so I was very transit. And so I would say, don't be afraid, right? When you get to this new place and you got to make new friends, and you most of the time was from a rival part of the community, so people didn't like you just because of where you come from. Keep pushing, right? Stay solid, and really stay focused. But the biggest thing was don't be afraid, because I went through a lot when I first moved to that neighborhood of really getting bullied. One, I moved in the candy store. Now you really think I got something going on, so now you're really trying to fight me. Yeah, but so just don't be afraid. That's it.
Well, you know, transformation is freedom.
Yes.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It comes and it hits us when
Yeah.
we least expect it. We could do a whole show on bullying
Yeah.
because, and as you said, you use the term we use in education. You're a transient. You're a
Yeah.
transient student. You lived here maybe one part of the school year, then
Yeah.
you moved somewhere else, another part of the school year, and so you're always chasing. What's the word I want to use? You're always,
Connections.
say it again for me, Kendra.
Connections.
Yeah, exactly. Connection. Because
Yeah.
by the time you get a connection, you have to move again.
Yeah.
And connection is so important. And I think about the year that we've just gone through, where
Mhm.
people were not able to connect with their family in a physical sense, and
Yeah.
what that did to us emotionally, and psychologically. So that connection is so important. And so, what a wonderful message, what a wonderful gift to give to the younger
Mhm.
KT. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
It looks dark, but don't be
Yeah.
afraid. You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Well, Kendrick, thank you for being a guest on my show.
Yeah.
Thank you for being willing to be vulnerable with me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I started crying and got you going too. I just felt it when you talked about the standoff. I felt
Yeah.
it because I've seen that sort of thing before.
Yeah.
And I'm just so thankful that it turned out well for your mother,
Yeah.
uh, for your siblings, and I'm thankful that you had grandparents and a great grandmother that was able to stand in the gap while your mother was away.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that your mom, because she knew that you guys were going to be okay, and your granddad helped reinforce that to help you shape you into the man that you've become, because all of that is what makes you the successful school administrator. The youth advocate helps you to become the speaker, the mentor, the coach, the podcast host. All the great things that you do, it comes from where you started.
Yes.
And sometimes, as a friend of mine said to me, don't begrudge small beginnings,
Yeah.
because we can see what small beginnings you had, but look at where you are now and
Yeah.
the lives that you are touching.
Yeah.
So, as we bring this segment to a close, I want you to let my audience know how they can
Mhm.
stay in contact with you.
Yeah.
And again, thank you so very, very much for being a guest on my show, Transform with TAS.
Man, Dr. Taz, it was my pleasure. Like I say, I've been doing this for at least 2 years straight. It's my first time shedding a few tears, but I mean, we went deep in there. So for the audience, if they want to connect, learn more about the videos, about the speaking, simply KTTeeV.com, KTTeeV.com. And so that's that. They'll find the social media, everything right there.
All righty then. And I will have it as part of the show. So again, Kendrick Thomas has been my guest. KT, thank you so much for your willingness to share your story and to help me change lives. Thank you again.
To my little workstation that I have set up here. Set it on the traverse. And I'm going to add just a little bit of this leftover marinara sauce just to moisten it a little bit. Just to moisten it a little bit. You know, sometimes you need to be moistened. Now I could have grabbed the brush. I just didn't. I do have the brushes that I could have grabbed, but I did not. Don't hold it against me. I could have. I just thought I would just grab a teaspoon and just move along with this, because sometimes you have to kick it up. You just can't. Okay, and I'm really just putting this little extra here because I got it. Also because there really is no reason to waste it. You know, Mama said don't mix it with my hands. So, you know, I didn't mix this meatloaf because, you know, Mama was directing me from a distance. So I'm going to take the shredded Italian cheese and I'm just going to put it here. Now, you add the amount of cheese that you want to add, okay? I'm adding it to feel because I kind of want to see it there. And so I'm just adding cheese. And this is not bad because it does have mozzarella. So therefore, this has some part skim milk cheese that's been partially made with skim milk. And we can see how it has cooked. Let me tell you, I was seeing the steam come out of my oven and I was like, I have not seen that happen before. But it was steaming. So we're gonna put that right there. Put that there. I'm gonna kind of push these little pieces here. Okay, oops, you know it's hot, oops. So what we're gonna do is now, I'm gonna go back. We're gonna pop this in the oven. I think, looking at this, I think it's almost done. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm going to pop it in. And ooh, the oven is warm, ooh. And I'm going to go ahead and put this on broil. Oh, it looks so good. It looks so good. And, you know, of course, you could have had more cheese on top, but I didn't want any more cheese because, again, we are trying to make this healthy. And you may have forgotten, but I haven't forgotten, there's cheese on the inside. There are two different kinds. It's the Italian blend, and we got feta cheese. Now, this is hot, but I do want to taste it because I want you to see how it tastes because I don't know how it tastes. So we've got to figure this out. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to be the simplest way to do this. I think I'm going to, oh, this is going to be real nice. I'm going to pull out a little meatloaf. Oops, I made it just in time. So I'm going to put this right here for right now because we're using this. I'm going to put that there too. So here is my little meatloaf. And it really is a little loaf. It's hot. You see this string cheese. You see how that cheese is melting? Oh man, I'm almost afraid to try it. Oh, look at that. I did right. You see it's still juicy. Can you see that juice? I hope you guys can see that juice. You see that juice there? So I made a good decision not to let it cook the additional minutes. And you have to make those decisions based upon your oven. You see that liquid there? It's still liquid because we did not want it to dry out. Well, I'm telling you all that because I'm trying to let this cool down just a little bit. So I can hear somebody say, why are you whispering? Well, you know you start whispering when you're going to have something good. Oh God, it still tastes so good. I made the right decision to put a little sprig more salt, I believe. It's perfect. It is absolutely perfect. This is my version of meatloaf, where we have added ground turkey and we have added sausage. This is absolutely wonderful. Thank you for joining me for the premiere episode of Transform with TAS. This has been I don't even know how to say it. This has been a labor of love bringing this show to you. I want you to be a part of it. If you have a recipe that you would like for me to attempt to transform, because I can't say I can transform all of them and make them healthier, please reach out to me at transformwithtas@gmail.com. transformwithtas@gmail.com. Send me your recipe. Make sure that you say recipe in the subject line. Also include your first and last name, your city and your state, and the recipe, of course. And you never know, your recipe may be selected to be a part of this show. It has been my honor to bring you Transform with TAS. Let's just transform our lives together, our body and our soul. And for those who don't know, my sign off is take care of you. So in order to take care of somebody else, you got to take care of you first. See you later. Bye now.